Good afternoon, friends. Nayaswami Hriman here once again. It's Friday, October 16th, and I am still at the Camino Hermitage on beautiful Camino Island. Our Whispers from Eternity today is number 151. It's called Lead My Body on the Right Path. And in parentheses, Yogananda wrote, inspired by the Hindu scriptures. Teach me, Lord, to conquer myself by myself. Bless me that my discrimination become the charioteer of the steeds of my five senses, firmly holding the reins of my mind. Let my soul, riding on the wheels of discipline in the little chariot of my body, drive triumphantly over the speedway of earth lives until at the last race, it finds itself safe in thee, O King of Kings, safe in thy royal palace. Interesting. This is a great subject for a little bit of the deeper, more subtle aspects of the practice of meditation, which in the path of self-realization and in the history of yoga from India can be called, among other things, Raja Yoga, royal yoga. Interesting, he mentions in the royal palace. There is a very famous tale. I don't know in how many cultures it finds itself expressed, but it's the tale of the prince and the pauper, wherein the prince, by one form or another, finds himself or believes himself to be a pauper, and at some point in the end of the story awakens to realize that he's not a pauper, but a prince. Well, that deep story is the story of our lives. It's the story of all creation, but creation, for the most part, is not that self-aware. Into the human body, designed by Spirit to awaken to a transcendent reality beyond the five senses, designed rather for the purpose of this awakening, can rediscover that we are a prince or a princess of spirit. I'd like to play a little bit of a chant. This was a chant that Yogananda's guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar, apparently used to play. I don't know, it wasn't in English, I'm sure, but whether it was in Bengali or Sanskrit, I don't actually know. Desire, my great enemy. Desire, my great enemy, with his soldiers surrounding me, is giving me lots of trouble, oh my Lord, is giving me lots of trouble, Lord. That great enemy I will deceive, remaining in the castle of peace, night and day in thy joy, O Lord, night and day in thy joy, O Lord. What will be my fate, O Lord, tell me. Pranayam, the Lord says, be thy religion. Pranayam will give thee salvation. Pranayam is the wishing tree. Pranayam is the wishing tree. I participated last evening as a spectator, as it were, in one of the classes of our Raja Yoga intensive. It's based on a book that has become a classic in its time, in my lifetime, The Art and Science of Raja Yoga, by Ananda's founder, Swami Kriyananda. And Dr. Venkatrao Morley is the presenter, along with Peony Lee, in this class series, part of which is in person and part of which is done online in the Zoom room. And Morley was talking about the relationship of breath to mind. In the autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda writes that the science of breath control is India's great contribution to the treasury of human knowledge. You see, we see all around us addiction and negativity and ignorance and harm being done to our environment, to one another, and to ourselves throughout this world. Well, this world isn't going to suddenly become enlightened, I can assure you of that. But for those who seek enlightenment, to those who, like the great Buddha, want to unravel the mystery of illness, old age, and death, suffering, in other words, like the great rishis of a higher, more enlightened age. The secret to life, we all know intuitively, is contained in our breath. With the first breath of the baby who shrieks and cries because he probably says, oh no, I did it again, I came back, to the last dying breath, death rattle, when we leave this body. The breath is, of course, the primary indicator that we are alive. It's not the only indicator, science tells us nowadays, but nonetheless. So the breath is a little bit like a lifeline, a little bit like a transmitting cell phone signal, like a radio wave, that not only indicates that a person is living, but more importantly, brings to the human body life and intelligence. With each breath, we rise. With each exhalation, we not sink exactly, but we come down in some form or another. That rotation of the breath, inhalation, exhalation, provides the very basis not just for life, but to our response to the world around us through the five senses. And so the ability to overcome desire, which Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita tells us is man's worst enemy, as this chant suggests, can be done scientifically, though not exclusively scientifically, but can be done scientifically through awareness and control of breath, the science and the art of pranayama. Prana meaning life force, including breath, and yama meaning control of. To be able to quiet the heart, to still the breath, is the key to one-pointed focus of the mind. And when the mind is internalized, all the ups and downs, the desires, the fears, the preoccupations, the habits, the addictions, all those things, as it does in sleep, but sleep is being not very conscious, all those things vanish. And so a key, yoga has given the world a key for this age of scientific rationalism to try to understand not just the meaning of life, but the essence of life, the essence of what it means to be alive. And behind all the 70,000 thoughts that a signal transmission, a signal watcher, observer. And when you internalize your gaze, the point between the eyebrows, behind closed eyes, when you internalize your awareness to seek the watcher. I think St. Francis, believe it or not, a great yogi, was quoted as saying, what you are seeking is who is seeking. And thus it is in the teachings of Jnana Yoga, meaning the understanding of the perception, the consciousness that lies behind life. We have the art and science of focusing the mind to become still. It's not enough, because it's the heart that holds the key. The heart, the awakening of the heart. When we were studying the do's of the Eightfold Path of Patanjali, the niyamas, we were talking about Ishvara Pranidhana, which is to say the awakening of the heart's natural love in devotion. Now I'm going to check something. Okay, so that devotion, which is to say that aspiration, that desire to be still and know, that desire to be transcendent of our sufferings, to be transcendent even of our success and joys, which we know instinctively are, even if hard earned, are not necessarily going to be ours forever. And so it is that the secret to overcoming desire, the secret to overcoming addictions, bad habits, negativity, whatever it might be, is to be still and know. Now, because that can only be a few minutes of our day each day, then we must also do all the other precepts of spiritual living, which is to say, kindness, compassion, wisdom, vitality, excellence in what we do, applying ourselves as best we can to what is ours to do. All those qualities, the virtues of human nature, we should ascribe to be, not to gossip, not to put other people down, to see the highest in one another. All those things still apply. We mustn't imagine that techniques like Kriya Yoga are a shortcut to working out our karmic tendencies. But through the advanced techniques of yoga and meditation, we can greatly accelerate that, because by resting in the self within, with an open heart, open to receive the great gift of the divine awakening, we will prepare ourselves to live more and more in that state. And then whatever karma residue remains, we'll be able in that state, be able to work it out. And so in the meantime, one of the other niyamas is tapasya. And so in the meantime, we must seek every day to discipline ourselves, to be a little bit stern with ourselves in habits of eating and how we think, and fantasizing or obsessing, focusing the mind, and heat and cold, and what people think or say about us, or worse yet, what we imagine they think or say about us, right? And so tapasya is a life of being centered in the self, a little bit stoic, I would say, stoic as to the things that come to us, even-minded and cheerful, as Yogananda said. But the key to a rapid advance, to the airplane route to true happiness, lies within us. Okay, this is Friday, so on Monday, Padma will be back to share the next whispers from eternity.